more live from on the border, Mission Valley. Thursday night football coming up. Darren Smith with you till 5 o'clock. A lot of good things happening up on the Mesa right now. A lot of good things. Football, basketball. I know women's soccer, and I know there's other stuff happening up there, but primarily we will focus today on men's basketball. Maybe a question in there about women's basketball. We love Beth Burns. Of course, football now will wrap up its home schedule this Saturday against Air Force after obviously what was the biggest win in program history. And here to confirm that is their athletic director. He is Jim Sterk, who joins us via the Western Exterminator Hotline on a Thursday. Jim, always good to talk to you. Darren Smith, thank you for the time.
Darren, thanks for having me on.
Obviously the biggest win in program history, right? No doubt about that.
No doubt about it, as far as according to some historians like Tom Abel, so we'll take it.
Okay. Isn't it funny how people really got their feathers all ruffled about this, about what people perceive to be the biggest win in program history, and people have gone to great lengths to say, no, it's not, yes, it is. It's funny, but I would imagine as the athletic director, no matter what the opinions are that are out there, you must like the fact that people are talking about your program. We have Jim?
It was the greatest win ever, and so that just keeps the conversation going. And obviously the team turned their heads on Sunday to play in Air Force this weekend.
Well, Jim, do you get a sense? I mean, you've probably got your ear to the ground in San Diego as much as anybody as an athletic director. Do you get the sense that your football program, it's not where your basketball program is, but do you get a sense that it's gaining momentum across the county with people who went there and from people who didn't?
Yeah, I think a lot of it started, a couple years ago, making our first bowl in a long, long time, and then last year we led the league in attendance and ticket sales, and this year we didn't have quite a great home schedule, but certainly have captured the television sets and the ratings, and so we're sitting here looking to win a championship, and that would be the first since 1998. So I think there's momentum there, and if you did a comparison with Coach Fisher's basketball, I got here just as it was really starting to explode. But that was after I think he said his fourth 20-win season, and going to the NCAA tournament, and then the next year after that, then going unbelievable 34-3 or whatever it was, and then this past year in a down year going to the tournament again, and then returning a bunch of starters and some new impact players. So I think it's sustained success, and I think we're certainly capturing a lot of the attention of the county, the region, and the nation. We're
talking to Jim Sterk, athletic director at San Diego State. I would think this Saturday is probably a pretty important game in terms of continuing with that momentum. You don't want to have a 5-game winning streak lose against Air Force at home on Senior Day.
No, and they're a scary team. They run the triple option, a version of it, and they've been up and down. They beat Nevada handily, and then went on a tough emotional trip to Army and lost at Army, and so I think we'll get somewhere in between that of a team that's very capable of beating us, but a very entertaining game that their rushing attack, I think, is like third in the nation. So we'll have our hands full, but if we play well, we can win, and that's an exciting position to be in.
We're talking with Jim Sterk. Jim, this is a great question to ask you because you actually are somebody who will be thinking about this and how it affects you. We talked about it earlier this week. If given your choice, would you like to play in the Vegas Bowl? Would you like to play in the Poinsettia Bowl and stay home and potentially play against the BYU? It seems like there might be a couple options out there, and I think it's an interesting topic about whether or not you'd like to stay home or whether or not you'd like to travel and see if your fans would respond and go with you.
Yeah, that is a tough one. One, I like to be in this position, so right. We're going to a bowl, so you love to be wanted, and I think, for us and for me, on a personal standpoint, I think it'd be great to stay home, play BYU and pack Qualcomm, and just that would be a heck of a game, and there's no love lost between the programs, and so that I think Binkowski loves to sell that, and so I think he'll fan the flames, if you will, and see what they can draw. But if that comes about. But I would also, love to play a Pac-10 school or Pac-12 school at the Vegas Bowl. So they do a great job there, and it would be fun. But probably if I had to choose, I think Poinsettia would be my first choice.
Financially, would it make a big difference one way or the other? Because it's easy now in the world of Google that you could look it up and you could see that the payout for the Vegas Bowl is 2 times as high as Poinsettia.
Not the way, and actually this year as we're leaving the Mountain West Conference, we don't share in the revenue this year, so we don't receive any revenue. We'll just receive expenses, and with the Poinsettia Bowl, if we sold tickets, we could, above what's required for the conference, we could keep that ticket revenue. So probably the Poinsettia Bowl would be financially more beneficial to us.
Well, then that's all you need to say, really. Then that makes all the sense in the world. Let's switch over to basketball. How much concern did you have this week about Friday night and the battle on the Midway?
I've had a concern for about a couple months on that Midway game, so it's been a work in progress, and we owe a heck of a lot to Mac McLaughlin at the Midway and his board of directors, Henry Ford at Fox, and Daryl Gross and Renee Baumgartner at Syracuse. And then internally, our staff has done a lot, headed up by John David Wicker, my senior associate, who's put on some first and second rounds and regionals up in Spokane. So he's used to putting on big games like this. So he's in the middle of it, and our staff is in the middle of it. They're professionals, and they're doing a great job. But boy, we really wanted to play on the Midway, and if you went by there the last couple of days, the bleachers are up, the lights are up. It looks like it is great setting with a clear blue sky. But if it's raining, then it's a different story. And so we preferred to play on the Midway. Everyone else, all of those involved, wanted it to happen that way as well. So Syracuse was able to move their charter, and we were able to move our game, and so it's working out to play Sunday, and it looks like a great forecast for Sunday at 1.
Was there ever, how much time did you spend thinking about keeping the game Friday, playing it over at Sports Arena?
Well, that was the backup from the start. That was the intent. But then as it got closer, and I think everyone had invested so much in creating this game, and I think Fox has 86 million households cleared for the game, 116 million total that'll see it either live or delayed, and so we wanted to put on the best for San Diego, and I think I'd be lying if I didn't think it back at Coach Fisher's mind, well, let's play a Syracuse inside where there's wind's not a factor and outdoors elements aren't a factor, and I'd love to play their zone inside as opposed to outside. So there might have been a little bit of rain dance from Coach Fisher, but I think in the end he wanted to play outside too.
Was Viejas ever an arena up on campus, or was it always going to have to be over at Sports Arena?
Neutral site.
Okay.
Syracuse really, Coach Boeheim, if you get him out of New York, he's certainly not going to go into someone else's arena and play. So we, especially Viejas and the reputation there, tough place to play. So the Sports Arena was always the backup.
It's so funny. People who follow college basketball know exactly what you mean when you say if you get them out of New York, because you can never get them out of New York, especially this time of year. You guys made some announcements this week, and it's been well publicized. A couple of things on both football and basketball. I'll ask, more challenging. Is it harder to schedule football? I would think, just because there's fewer games, fewer schools. What are the differences between scheduling football? We heard about Ohio State, or basketball. We heard about the home and home with Kansas.
Basketball is more. It's one more games, but then. I guess when you just look at the non-conference, isn't it quite, it's not too many more, but you only end up scheduling your non-conference football, which is four a year or 3 a year if you have nine league games. So I think it's easier to do football games, and you do them normally longer periods away, and you set them up, but there's always changes at the last minute that things occur, and so we had that, and when we talked the first time, and when I threw out Alabama, we were already looking at, what the schedule was, and Ohio State, could have been a possibility, and so that was a preference at that point, and so it's done, and actually the athletics directors and the senior associates get involved with that, and it's more an administrative work, and then on the basketball side, the majority of the scheduling is done by the basketball operations person in consultation with the coach, and then we get involved with bigger games like UCLA and the Wooden Classic and the Midway, obviously, and Kansas. We needed to get to work with the Big West next year, make sure that we had January 4th open when Kansas would play. So it's a work in progress, but basketball is a little bit more complicated.
Is this the way you expect it to be for basketball now with the switch to the Big West, that we might see more games like this, more home at homes, more opportunities to go on the road and perhaps play bigger programs?
Yeah, I think you'll see. Obviously, we have with the Big East, the scheduling alliance, and over the next few years, it'll probably be Temple and Memphis in that, and those will be great games, both home and away. And then you have traditionally, Coach Fisher has played USC and Arizona, and so we'll have some of those games mixed in there. And we're in a great spot here. People, like to come to Southern California. They don't necessarily like to play Fisher in Viejas Arena, but we're even working possibly neutral sites at the Honda Center if we can't get enough games here at home that we might, maybe it's a Big Ten school at the Honda Center instead of the Wooden Classic in years in the future. So we're looking at all of those options, and then obviously the Diamond Head and the Maui Classic are options as well. So a lot of great opportunity, and with the program doing so well.
Why does Ohio State make more sense from a football standpoint than Alabama?
You could ask Rocky that question. I'm sure he'd give you a long-winded answer, but no. As I've played games there in the South early in September. Heat and humidity, the physicality, all of those things are factors that impact your team the next week and the week after, and I've had some negative experience with that. So my preference was in Ohio State. Rocky's preference was in Ohio State, so we went in that direction.
So what you're saying is the Big Ten is softer than the SEC?
Well, I think they're at that time of the year, I'd rather be up in Ohio than in Alabama.
Does it matter financially one way or the other?
No.
Okay.
No.
Fair enough. Well, hey, have a great weekend, Jim. You guys got a ton going on here. I'm glad it worked out with the Midway. Thank you very much for your time, and have an excellent weekend up there with everything football and basketball-wise.
Yeah, and we've got soccer Saturday night with first round of the NCAA tournament up on the sports deck, 7 p.m., so that'll be great, too.
You're the best. You're the best AD. You get soccer in here every single time you're on the show.
Well, they're doing great. They're number 2 ranked RPI in the country. I have to.
You got them in there. GoAztecs.com. Hey, thank you very much, Jim.
All right.